Greetings, my name is Bruce George. I'm a poet, writer, activist, father, grandfather. I'm all about activism. I'm all about putting myself in a position where I can help people that struggle. That was my mandate from God. It's all about the collective and not the individual. I allow any and everything to inspire me, regardless of whatever I go through, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. I allow it to motivate me to be better and do better. I'm a man on a mission, and I feel very strong about giving back to the community, reaching back to people, reaching out to people, and helping take them to another level. So that's what drives me. It's just being able to make a difference in someone's life.
I am so excited that Bruce George has agreed to be our guest today on the Timbuktu Report. You're going to hear from this Renaissance man who is on a mission, as he said, to make a difference in the world around him and the entire globe. Bruce George is my guest tonight on the Timbuktu Report. Dr. Rick Stevenson is away, and we send him greetings to wherever he is, and may he be blessed and be well. The Timbuktu Report is next. I hope you will stay with us. Thank you for joining us for this edition of the Timbuktu Report. I am super excited to have as my guest today Bruce George, who is an award-winning producer of the show Def Poetry Jam on HBO with Russell Simmons. He is also the man who is making this phrase common, genius is common, all the way from New York. Mr. Bruce George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Pamela, it's good to see you. First and foremost, I would like to thank the good Lord for blessing us to be here. Barbara H. Smith, I want to shout out to her. She's a part of the movement, as you are, for connecting the dots between you and I. I really appreciate it. I want to thank your listeners that are viewing live as well as archived. And I want to shout out the Timbuktu Report. You're doing some great work.
Thank you so much. And that is a high compliment coming from someone like you who has worked with people on the television, on HBO. You are an award-winning producer of the show Def Poetry Jam. I want to know, and then this genius is common. You've had Hollywood stars to record videos to talk about genius is common. What an incredible phrase, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is so uplifting. Tell everybody how that came about.
Well, it basically came about, everything I do, Pamela, is out of activism, right? Necessity is the mother of all invention, right? Aristotle said that. I think it was Aristotle or Plato. I think it was Plato that said that, may have said that. And so everything I do is out of activism. And so I would go around the country and I would ask the youth, when you hear the word genius, what image comes to mind? And it would always say Einstein or a light bulb. And every now and then I would get a Jordan, and that troubled me. And I said, you know what? Let me write a quote about that. And the quote is, notwithstanding Einstein, genius is common. Then I turned into the slogan, genius is common, which turned into an entire movement. As we speak, we have a presence in all 50 states, 15 countries, with 36 ambassadors and growing. And so the movement really is just about taking the elitism out of the word genius. Thus, we are an anti-elitist movement. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I'll wait for you to basically lead me into going into more depth about it.
Well, I think what you just said about this being a movement, you know, people think of the civil rights movement, they think of women's suffrage. How is it that you come to call genius is common a movement? What do you expect to happen with
Good
genius
point.
being a
Good
movement?
question. Good question. Not only what I'm expecting to happen, but what's actually happening, Pamela. What's happening is that the words genius is common. When you hear the words genius is common, energy is everything, right? So when you hear the words genius is common, what you are hearing or experiencing vibrationally, not just verbally, but vibrationally, what you are experiencing is a paradigm shift in the way we traditionally see ourselves in relationship to the word genius. So the movement comes into how the words genius is common paradigm shifts the way people think and feel themselves in relationship to it. So what it does is it levels the playing field, if you will. It's inclusive. So it's all inclusive. So that in and of itself is a part of the movement. And then you can't have a movement without people, right? And so the people basically that are in the movement, and I want to shout out all of the ambassadors, all of the licensees, all of the members that's in the Genius is Common movement for being a part of it. So we have, a presence in all 50 states, 15 countries, hundreds of thousands of people that have embraced the Genius is Common moniker. And what they're doing around the world is they are taking the elitism out of the word genius by just saying the words genius is common in and of itself. You don't have to do anything but just say genius is common. Are you saying those three words? It's extremely powerful and extremely political.
So the people that you've had, everybody. I mean, you talk about the person who is a genius because she knows how to do hair, or somebody who's a genius because they can mop a floor till it shines and looks like glass, buff a floor. What do you think this movement is going to do for those who say it, for those who embrace it?
What it's going to do and what it's doing is it's empowering people to look within themselves, right? Because we all have what is called the genius seed. Some call it God, which I do, some call it source energy, right, Pamela? And so I don't proselytize, I just tell people we all have a genius seed. Now, those that believe in God, I'll take them back to the etymology and say, let's look at the word genie in Genesis, right? Genesis is the beginning. God is the Alpha and the what? Omega. Look at the word genie in your genes. Your genes is your whole makeup of who you are. So the GIC movement basically is the first movement to let the world know that they've been lied to in relationship to the word genius. So when they say, Pamela, you're only a genius if you have 130, 140 IQ in Mensa, that's pure nonsense. That was an arbitrary number made up at Stanford University to make you 1% of the population, which is rooted in elitism. They don't want you to know that the true origin of the word genius doesn't just apply to intellect. Even Einstein said we're all geniuses. And if you were to judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it would spend its whole life believing that it's stupid. The philosopher Buckminster Fuller said that every child is born a genius, but the process of life de-geniuses them. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said that talent hits a target that no one else can hit, but genius is a target that no one else can see. So we're the first movement to let the world know that the true origin of the word genius comes from the word genie out of Northern Africa, not ancient Rome. And the genie is the guiding tutelary spirit within each of us. So the genius in us is the genie in us, and the genie in us is the God in us we've been lied to. And when I'm speaking to believers such as yourself, I take them to the Bible. Luke 17:21 said, neither lo here nor lo there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Genesis, we created them in our own image. Psalms, ye are gods with a little g. 1 Corinthians 3:16, know ye not that ye are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you, right? Even Romans 4:17, that made thee a father of many nations before him whom he believed, even God who quickened the dead and called those things which be not as though they were, right? Even in the Kabbalion of correspondence, what's inside is outside. So we can go on and on and on about that. But I just wanted to make that point that the words genius is common is very transformative. And that's the power of the movement. That's the guts and soul of the movement. That we're the first movement to question the legitimacy, what is called the legitimacy of the word genius ever since its etymology.
The first movement to question legitimacy of the meaning of genius.
Or the word genius, right?
Yeah.
The
Look,
question is legitimacy, because it's not legitimate if it doesn't apply to all of us.
yeah.
So when they say you're only 130, 140 IQ, if you're a genius, that was that was an arbitrary number made up by Stanford University.
So listen, for those who are watching, and I want you to explain to them when you have people, you've had hundreds of people to record a video that you've posted on your website, on your YouTube channel that says genius is common, and they say what their genius is. Explain to people what they need to do, because I want everybody watching to post in what is your genius, because you're saying genius is common
Mm-hmm.
because God knew us before the beginning of the foundation of the world. So God didn't make no mess.
That's right.
So we all have genius in us, as you were talking about, you know, what we come here with as children, but life can beat it down. Our self-doubt can beat it down. So explain to people, because I want Ridgeway, forgive me for not being able to say your first name. Thank you. I am a genius. That's great affirmation. So tell people what you're talking about and how they can post the genius that they are.
Well, if they want to be a part of the Geniuses Common movement, I would implore them to go to geniusescommon.com and use your name as a reference, you know, in reference to entree them in the movement, because I want to make sure that you get the credit, Pamela, with this beautiful platform, the Timbuktu Report. And they can go through you, go to the website, connect with you, and then I will entree them into the movement. But anybody can just do a regular video. You know, they can just take their camera, smartphone, iPad, computer, say your name, say what your geniuses are, talk about yourself, and then say genius is common. You know, and so, yeah, the movement is really on the cusp of breaking mainstream. Any day, hour, a month now, like Black Lives Matter and Me Too movements, respectively. And I want to shout out all of those celebrities that did Geniuses Common videos. We have 86 celebrities, Pamela, that did Geniuses Common videos.
Wow.
86. And out of those 86, 42 of them are classic vintage rappers like Curtis Blow, Grandmaster Melly Mel, Do-It-All Kelly from Lords of the Underground, you name it. We even have a Geniuses Common video from the United States Army in full uniform.
Oh, wow.
Hi, my name is Staff Sergeant so-and-so. My genius is so-and-so, Genius is common. And I want to give a shout out to Major Consuelo Hodges, who has since retired from the Army. He was responsible for us procuring that Geniuses Common video.
And my genius is decorum, the ability to recognize what is the appropriate words and behaviors in all types of situations, the ability to assimilate without losing my own identity.
Wow.
Isn't that wonderful?
That's beyond wonderful. And you see what's happening, Pamela, is that we're in the age of the Aquarius, right? Mm-hmm. We were in the age of the Aquarius in the 60s. Now we're in the age of the Aquarius again. That's why you see social media, right, playing such a major role in us being able to have a voice. Social media, the whole internet was invented basically for the sole purposes of military purposes, right? Right? So it wasn't meant for the masses, the general masses, to be able to use it to galvanize their voice. And then when they allowed the masses to jump on board and they realized that the average person can have a voice, then they tried to stop it, but it was too late. And as an activist, that's when they tried to stop what is called net neutrality, right? But we just continue to press on and press through. And then they had to embrace us eventually, right? And so what you would notice in terms of the upload speed versus the download speed is asymmetric. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you can download very quickly, but when you upload, it takes a longer time. You know why?
Why?
Because what are you downloading? You're downloading product. What are you uploading? Your voice. You see? Mm-hmm. So that's not by coincidence that the download speed is quicker and the upload speed is a lot less. Now you have the Timbuktu Report. You know, we definitely have to shout out all of those people that were killed in 2012 in Timbuktu as a result of the Islamic Boko Haram and Ansar Dine, who destroyed a lot of the
Yes.
artifacts in Timbuktu because they deemed it idolatrous, right? So we definitely have to shout those people out that lost their lives, and we lost a lot of our artifacts in Timbuktu. And as you know, Pamela, that was like a truth brewery of all truth breweries. I don't call it a library; it was a truth brewery of all truth breweries. So we have to really, it's sad that that happened, but you can't kill the truth, though.
Right, right. And out of just inspiration from the creator that this show came about with Dr. Rick Stevenson, who is usually on with us to talk about these little
Shout out
known,
to Dr. Stevenson.
yeah, African American history facts and African facts, as we've talked about the Timbuktu Report. My guest tonight, Bruce George, the founder and the uplifter of the Genius is Common movement. And you've rubbed elbows with the big people in Hollywood, yet you come to this place of wanting to embrace the greatness in the smallest, and bring that up to the level of those who have been elevated by man, to say that this is greatness. But your movement is saying there's greatness in all of us, and let us all rise together.
Absolutely. There's greatness in all of us. Frederick Douglass said it best. He said, "Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." Here it is. Look how God is so great. I'm from New York, born in Harlem, raised in the Bronx. I lived in Brooklyn for 15 years. I'm a New Yorker to the umpteenth percentile. I used to be in the herb business. I come out of gang culture, Pamela. I was very wild, very brazen, and actually one of my 3 legacies is I'm the founder of the Bandana Republic. It's a literary anthology by gang members and their affiliates. Poetry, prose, short stories, and quotes and interviews from gang members, gang leaders, and those affiliated. Never been done before.
Wow.
The Crips, the Bloods, the Latin Kings, the Northerners, Southerners, Mexican Mafia affiliates, crews, cliques, sets. It was smuggled into the security housing unit of Pelican Bay, and the Mexican Mafia blessed it. Soft Skull Press out of Brooklyn had the heart to publish it. Jim Brown wrote the foreword to it, right? And so that was a way of me giving back to the community, the same community that I harmed, right? And so I was blessed to come out of gang culture and became an activist, and been an activist ever since, and so service is the rent you pay for being on earth. God says in the Bible, all have fallen short of the glory of God. He said, there's not one of you that is righteous, not one. He said, your righteousness is as filthy rags, right? Mm-hmm. And so activism for me is about being able to serve people. It's the rent you pay for being on earth. And that's what my whole life is about. And when I tell you my life is like a never-ending pinch me moment, it's like a never-ending pinch me moment, because God is blessing me to be able to give back. And it's nothing like that, Pamela.
Genius is Common, a movement that's been around for 8 years?
8 years now. It was downloaded into my spirit in the latter part of 2014. Yep. I would go around the country and ask the youth, when you hear the word genius, what image comes to mind? And they would always say Einstein or a light bulb. And I said, let me write a quote about that. And the quote is, notwithstanding Einstein, genius is common. And for people that are unfamiliar with me, I study all the time in between my work. I'm right brain and left brain, but I'm classic right brain. And I specialize in psychology, philosophy, classic literature, neuro-linguistic programming, metaphysics, body language, the law of attraction. I specialize in power. I'm a wordsmith, word engineer, and a master quotologist. I'm quoted around the world every nanosecond of every single day. The amount of quotes that I have the memory of others is staggering, and it's not because of who I am, it's because of whose I am, being a child of God. So every last one of us can tap and should tap into the God in us, if you will. God has this amazing sense of humor where he gives us this so-called free will to do what we want to do, but the fine print reason. So you do what I instilled in you to do, never be happy, and you never have purpose. Right? So there you go.
And so that part of you, it's been said that we only use about 7% of what the cell phone is capable of, and we use less than 1% of what the brain is capable of. For those who are listening and watching, how do you tap into the genius that we all came here to do, the purpose that we came
The
here?
way you have to be tuned in, turned on, and tapped into spirit, the inner spirit within you, right? The French philosopher Pierre Chardin said, "We're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience." Dr. Wayne Dyer said, "It's not the notes that makes the music, it's the silence in between the notes that makes the music." Van Zandt said, "In acts of faith, you attract who and what is on your array." And Esther Hicks said, "You attract by your words and your vibrational countenance." So we're like tuning forks, Pamela. That's the God within. And when you tap into that spirit within, then he will direct your path. That's what he says. Lean not towards your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways and he will direct your path. So it's about us looking in, not looking out. And we were classically conditioned to look outside of ourselves by the masses. By not the masses, by the minority opulent, rather, I'm sorry. To look outside of ourselves through entertainment, outside of ourselves through all of these different distractions, so we don't tap into the God within. They know what time it is, right? So that's why they don't want us to do yoga. Here it is, your yoga instructor. That's why they don't want us to do yoga. They don't want us to pray. They don't want us to meditate. Why do you think they took God out of school, out of prayer? It wasn't so much, it was not so much just a political thing. It was a spiritual thing. They didn't want us to tap into the God within us, straight up.
Well, I did see something the other day where they were collecting money to take Bibles in the prisons, and I posted, if it's okay to take Bibles in the prisons, why don't we take Bibles in the schools so the kids are not going to prison?
Exactly, because of the school-to-prison pipeline.
Right.
That does sound pretty crazy.
Why are we not concerned about atheists in prison? But we're concerned about atheists in the schools. And ladies and gentlemen, we are completely leaving our children spiritually uncovered, and not an opportunity, even in schools where art is no longer a part of the curriculum.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Picasso said we're all artists. We're a born artist. And so when we don't have that, we don't have the wherewithal to tap into the genius. Parents are working so hard trying to make this meet this end. And then we're so distracted by all of the other stuff. We think babysitting is giving our children an iPad or iPhone. Then we're, as you said, all that stuff is coming at them. When do they have time to be available to their own creativity in the most simple kind of way?
Mm-hmm.
Growing up on a farm, we used to make mud pies.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question, Pamela. And I'm going to tell you, that's by design. Yeah. The whole system in terms of employment system, the whole 9 to 5, it was more than that until we had suffrage, people that were on the front line in terms of the suffrage movement, to cut down all of those hours that people were working crazy hours. And because of activism, the hours have been cut. It would be a lot more than it is right now, but it's designed that way, Pamela. So when you get home, you're dead dog tired. You can't do anything else. Much likewise, think about working for yourself. So that is all by design. So when you wake up the next day, you have enough energy to go home, cook. God forbid if you have enough time to make love to your husband or wife, right? And have some time, FaceTime with your children. Then you have to eat, shower, and then you're right back at the same thing the next day. That is designed for you to be able to, what is called remain human capital, right? They don't want you to work for anybody else. That's why in these institutions, these dogmatic institutions, they don't teach you how to become entrepreneurial. They teach you how to become managers and senior managers and stuff like that. That's all by design.
Yeah, there's actually a book that I saw about the founding fathers of this country via their work as businessmen who were entrepreneurs, who did not have degrees, but they were entrepreneurs and founders of companies. And then today we have to go to school in order to be a part of the economic picture in this society. That's what we're taught.
That's what we're exactly.
Yeah, you don't have
exactly.
to. That's what we're taught.
It's and you know the thing is, it's ruled by fear, and it's all about control, Pamela. I would implore your audience to go pick up the book, Michel Foucault, Discipline and Punish. Okay, Discipline and Punish, Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault is a intellectual's intellectual, right? And so within that book, he talks about the notion of control, how the prison system is the model for hospitals, is the model for schools. And if you look at the architecture of prisons, and you look at the architecture of schools, and you look at the architecture of hospitals, same thing. From the outside and from the inside, they're like prisons. So what Michel Foucault stated is that the teacher becomes the guards and the principal becomes the warden. So when you go to a hospital, you're awarded a bracelet, right? That bracelet makes you a warden of that hospital.
Yeah.
The nurses become the guards, right? And the doctor becomes the warden. So it's all ruled by fear. Religion is ruled by the fear of going to hell. Government or the state is ruled by fear of getting incarcerated. Institutions of lower learning and higher learning are ruled by fear of failure, failing, not passing.
Right.
Because when you have the fear, Pamela, then you have the control.
And who did not give us the spirit of fear?
Because we weren't given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, right? We weren't given a spirit of fear, but we were fed a spirit of fear. And you already know, as a believer, we try the spirits by the spirits. We don't do the fear thing, we do the faith thing. Fear is for the faithless and the godless, right?
Mr. Dr. Bruce George.
This is fun, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I hope everybody is enjoying and getting some insight. Ridgeway asked, can you leave a link for the book? We will do that. We will do that, and we will also leave the link so that you can record and post your genius in a video so that it can go be a part of the collection of all of those around the world who are saying it, speak it. Your words are powerful. Yeah. It was the vibrations of the creator's voice that made all of this happen. So if we are created and formed, then our words are powerful as well. In the image of this. I mean, I'm going to finish that in case somebody doesn't know the rest. If we are created and formed in the image of likeness, and that I think sometimes the likeness where you're talking about genius is common. I think we get so caught up in the physical because the image of what is being fed to us of what God looks like, even though the scripture says no one has ever seen. But then we have this image, so there's more focus on the image as opposed to the character, the likeness of the creator. And that's the genius.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. You know, because we get caught up on the exterior of things, but not the interior of things.
The spirit of it.
The spirit, absolutely. You know, and that's what we need to tap into.
Yeah, I always wondered, if no one has ever seen the creator, how did we automatically pick male?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
If no one's ever seen the creator, how did we automatically pick a male image to represent the creator?
Yeah, that is real interesting, right?
Isn't it?
Even in the Bible is written in a very patriotic way, you know. So it's skewed, if you will.
So Mr. Bruce George, Tell people how they can become a part of this. We didn't even get to talk about your work with Russell and all of that good stuff. And it was an
Well,
award-winning HBO series.
well, Def Poetry Jam, I want to shout out everybody that supported Def Poetry Jam on HBO. Starting with Russell Simmons, Danny Simmons, Deborah Pointer, Stan Lathan. We're all a part of the of Def Poetry Jam in terms of creating it. I want to also shout out all of the poets, the spoken word artists that were on the show. We had a nice run. We had 6 seasons. Started out as a 4 pilot show, turned to 6 seasons. We wound up getting a Peabody Award for 6 seasons on HBO and a Tony Award for the Broadway version. And I was the town executive at HBO and executive consultant to the Broadway show. So I was one of the co-founders, and it was a nice run. What it did was it extended the shelf life of poetry. So I'm going to shout out HBO for helping us push the poetic license, if you will. And this was during around the time of 9/11. So everybody and their baby brother was patriotic, right?
Yeah.
But we caught the world in a very reflective state. And what better time to feed people knowledge than when you can have them in a reflective state? So Def Poetry Jam, what it did basically, Pamela, is extended the shelf life of poetry. It made people think. The poet has always been the cajoler of history. The poet has always been the truth bearer. The poet has always been the flamethrower. You know, political prisoner Mumia Abu-Jamal said it best. He said, the state would rather me have a Uzi than a microphone.
Mm.
And then I wrote a quote and I said, next to that, I said, the state would rather have 1 million rappers talking about murder, 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 kill, 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 than to have one poet talking about the day the CIA killed Lumumba.
Mm.
God says in the Bible, death in life lies within the power of the tongue, and those that love it will eat the fruit thereof, right?
Right.
And so with that said, Pamela, words are power. That's why when Napoleon came to power, the first thing he said was kill all the poets. Why did he say kill all the poets? Because the poet has always been, again, the truth bearer, the flamethrower, if you will. You know, so we had a nice run. It was a nice run, and all of the shows are archived on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, put in Def, D-E-F, and then Poetry Jam, and you can check out a lot of the shows. I was the town executive at HBO and executive consultant to the Broadway show, and it was fun. It was a nice run. It put me all over the map. It's one of my 3 legacies that I have under my belt are God's grace and counting.
And counting.
Absolutely. Can't stop, won't stop.
So genius is common. What's your genius?
What's my genius?
What's your genius?
The things that I said at the very beginning when I said that the things that I specialize in, those are my geniuses. You know, psychology, philosophy, classic literature, all of those things. I'm an intellectual. I'm a Virgo, by the way. And people that's into astrology and all that stuff, a Virgo in 4 of my houses, ruled by Mercury. So we think very quickly. And it's the planet of communication and words, and it's the fastest planet. So I love what I do. I study every single day. And I love it. You know, knowledge is a defense. Money is a defense. Knowledge is a defense. People perish for lack of knowledge, right? That's what he says in the word. People perish for lack of knowledge. So it's important and imperative that we educate ourselves and don't just dip your toe into things. And a lot of people come half-cocked and, you know, I don't care, whatever it is that you get into, you have to drench yourself in it.
Drench.
You know, power concedes nothing without a demand. Never did it, never will. Frederick Douglass. A demand of your time, a demand of your money, a demand of your energy. You can't just tiptoe through the tulips if you want to get real results, right? How you see yourself is how you treat yourself, and how you treat yourself is how you will become.
Genius is common.
Genius is common.
Mr. George, thank you for gracing us today.
Thank you for having me.
Maureen Henry in Mississippi says, great show. Miss Maureen, is BJ around you there? Hello, BJ. BJ is my little 4-year-old grandson. He's a genius too, by the way.
Absolutely.
For real. Say hello to BJ.
Hey, what's up?
Look, I do want you to come back again and
Would
continue.
love to come back.
Thank you so much for sharing with our audience today. And we tell people again how they can be a part of Geniuses Common. They can go
If you go to geniusescommon.com, you can see the videos. We have over 1,000 videos on our website, by the way, from people as young as 4 years old. Every black sorority, every black fraternity did Geniuses Common videos. The United States Army did one. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
Go to geniusescommon.com. And we're number one on Google. The word Geniuses Common is number one on Google. My name, Bruce George, is number one on Google, and I'm Google verified. So I'm not hard to get at, and to communicate with. So definitely reach out. And then they should mention your name.
Pamela Marshall. When they do it.
Yeah. Thanks to Barbara H. Smith.
I want them to be a part of it, even if they don't. And we thank you so much for the activism that you have done and that you continue to do to help all of us tap into that gift that the Creator knew about before the foundation of this whole world. Who are we to suppress it?
That's right.
Or to let anybody else suppress it?
I agree.
Thank you again so much for being here. Timbuktu Report tonight. I want to let everybody know, thank you for your prayers for our safety during the storm. We are well, as you can tell, but we certainly pray for the other communities that have been hit hard by this storm and those who are still in the path of Ian. So we send our prayers to them, to all of the first responders that will be coming in to help restore power. My nephew, Chris, who works for Georgia Power, Chris Marshall, is heading to Florida and being a part of, and it's very dangerous out there. So even if the storm has passed through, as they have been warning, use all precautions as you get out. Yeah, because the water is still dangerous. Thank you again, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, BJ, for watching. I look forward to talking to you. I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you next time.